Live streaming is on.
Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fialka. It's April 9, 2021, and we want to thank Clinton Ignatoff for facilitating and helping us today. Thank you, Clinton. And it is an honor and a pleasure to be here with Sabrina de Monte. You please pronounce your last name so we get it correct.
Di Monte. It was fine.
Di
Di
Monte.
Monte.
Sabrina, what is the best thing for a human being?
Well, I think that human beings are, I suppose, the same across the world. We're all the same. We have some basic needs, and which are related, of course, to security and safety, and then once those basic needs are satisfied, I think we all need to be loved and to love and to be acknowledged, and to feel part of a community.
Really well.
It works.
Yeah, that was well done. In fact, our cohort from the Dante reading group, Adele, last week said almost word for word what you said is to love and to be loved, which is a great song.
Yes, I think it is important.
Yes. So what is your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
Well, when it comes down to, politics or current affairs, I suppose I listen to the radio a lot. I watch television. I read newspapers, at the moment mostly online. When it comes down to other topics like literature, of course, books are my favorite tool. Not Kindle. I don't think I will ever use a Kindle, but never say never. I like the real book, as an object. I think it is a wonderful object.
That's beautiful. Sabrina, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Well, I think that, to get informed, of course, also maybe to be able to conduct a conversation, not to feel stupid, but also to maybe be enabled to make the right choice when it comes down to making choices. I think it's always been like that. They've always, it's something that people have always felt the need for. If you think about, for example, at the beginning of the 18th century in England, the newspapers, were born because people had become rich and now they wanted to become educated. So, and collect information through the newspapers about current affairs, about what was happening around them. Yeah.
Do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate in humans or more invented by humans?
Well, I think it is innate, and it's also the recipe or the reason why we have moved on so much and so fast. Because if you think about what we have been able to achieve, also in your country, in some few centuries, you've been able to achieve so much. We've been able to go to the moon, and this has been because people always want to know more and to go deep into things. Particularly, this becomes effective if they can do it as a society, when they collect, and they unite all the skills and all the strength. So I think it is innate. At the moment, there is a new phenomenon, I think, in social media. I don't know if you've ever seen a Social Dilemma. It's a docudrama on Netflix about how social media companies have become nurturing this addiction to getting information, whatever information we're talking about is not important. I mean, are they silly conspiracy theories? Are they for real? Doesn't matter. The important thing is to keep people hooked. That's very dangerous, I think. Because there is this innate need, people want to do things. So it's easy also to manipulate this need, I think.
Yes,
so
really.
social media companies have a great responsibility in that. They can do wonders. I love social media. Facebook. I have a group on Facebook about fish, and I've learned so much. I've been able to meet people through that group. I think they can do wonders, but at the same time, they have a great responsibility, I think.
Yes, that's well put. And we are aware of social dilemma. We've talked about it a lot. And the next question is, do thoughts create emotions?
I think, definitely. Thoughts in general, I suppose, yes. Either if they're positive, they create positive emotions, negative create negative emotions. But really, the action of thinking, of giving food to your, you say food for thought, even food to your thought, can really be like inspirational and create huge, emotions, and also inspire. I think the opposite is true also. I mean, emotions, once they have been experienced, particularly if they are pleasant, once recollected in tranquility, as Wordsworth used to say, they can lead to further thinking. Let's imagine that it's always positive thinking, but I suppose it works also for negative thoughts. That's why being positive, trying to think positive is important, because it leads to positive emotions, I suppose.
Yes, I agree. And fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until what would you fill in the blank with?
I don't know what I think
Until I fill in the blank.
Well, I tend to think over things a lot. I think to be when I suppose that when I'm not sure about something, most of the time I have a gut feeling. But if I don't have a gut feeling, I have to go over and over the particular issue. And also, it's also important for me to share my views with someone I trust. That's very important for me. If I'm not sure about a situation, maybe I talk to my partner and I try to see what he thinks and confront our ideas. I think other points of view are very can be very important, particularly when you don't have that. You're not 100% sure that that's what it is.
Well done. And so do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Well, I suppose that talking about maybe life, to have a meaningful life, try to give meaning to what you do, to have a purpose in life, to have an aim in life, makes you happy.
Yeah. That's good. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness just there and we're detecting it, or are we creating consciousness?
It's a very difficult question, because do we know what consciousness is? It's there are these concepts of mind and brain. What is mind? Maybe it's the abstract conception of brain. Brain is the physical reality. In the past, people used to think that everything took place in the heart, emotions took place in that. Now we know that everything takes place in the brain. And so basically, I think we are what we think and what goes on in our brain, and which is something that we can actually train with, as I said, beautiful thoughts, inspirational thoughts, but also through studying and learning. We know that synapses, connections between neurons in the brain, are actually increased by intellectual activity. So it's like going to the gym. When you go to the gym and train, your muscle becomes stronger and larger, and so does the brain. And but it's very difficult matter to grasp. Also, when you talk about soul, what is the soul? I don't know. It's difficult. I think a lot of it happens in the brain. Mm.
That was good, Sabrina. You really sussed it out. What's faster, the speed of light or speed of thought?
Well, according to scientists, I suppose it's the speed of light. I was reading today some posts on Facebook coming down to social media, and they were saying that with the speed of light, you could reach the moon in a few minutes. I don't know if I read it wrongly, but I mean, it's so I suppose is the speed of light is, but we still know so little about how the brain works, and even how thoughts are formed in our brain. Joyce, that I know you are passionate about, tried to reproduce in writing the way thoughts are formed and associations are made, but it's just an attempt. It's very, very difficult to reproduce what happens in our brain and at what speed. Very difficult.
Yeah, Beckett said it well. He said Finnegan's Wake is not about a dream. It is a dream.
It is a dream.
And you have to read it out loud with a group of people and look at the text when you're reading it out loud. So this question is about a poet, Audre Lorde. She says, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer responded, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
New tool regarding what?
Well, the question's rather opaque because I'm basically throwing out two quotes by poets, female poets, that say about using a tool to dismantle the master's house. But I usually ask the question, what new tool do you just suggest in general? And then you can apply the quotes if you want to dismantle the master's house.
I think that, yeah, I think that classics had already understood a lot, and the tools that should be used have always been the same for thousands of years. I think it's very important to get to know yourself. This was something that comes from the classical world. Know yourself. That is one teaching, and the other one is do not go to excesses. Keep it the measure of katametron, I think it is in Greek. And know yourself. It was actually inscribed in the shrine, in Apollo's shrine in Delphi in Greece. And if you know yourself, if you try to know yourself and then be a witness of good practices, that's all you need, because you can't disrupt maybe what others are doing wrong. You can bring in your contribution. Like there is an African story that said, this very small bird, I don't remember the name of it now, it's the smallest bird ever. It's called colibri in Italian, but I don't remember the name in English. But anyway, very, very small bird during a fire in the forest, and he's going to and fro with some water in its beak. And he's asked, "But what are you doing?" Now they ask him, "You know, I do what I can. I'm try to bring my contribution." I think we have to do our best. First, starting with ourselves, and then trying to bring a positive contribution, and learning and studying and trying to go deep into matters of thought and also abstract thinking and literature, and can be very, very, or philosophy, or psychology, you know, all the knowledge that is available, has been available, can also help us acquire tools to understand reality, to understand ourselves, to be good human beings, and also to also it should enable us to recognize, you know, what is wrong from what is right, because appearances can be deceiving sometimes, very often. So we need the tools, and education also is a very important tool, I think.
Very well put. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
What
do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
You said, what do you think?
No, what do you worry about?
What do I worry about? The only, the thing I worry about, it's my daughters. That's the only thing I really worry about. I don't worry about myself. I'm always interested in their well-being. If they're happy, I'm happy. I can, you know, allow myself to do my things. If they're not happy, it would be impossible for me to be happy. So it's my daughters.
Are you more afraid of old ideas or more afraid of new ideas?
I'm afraid of old ideas when they are bad, and you know, come back with a vengeance. You know, I can understand that new ideas can be maybe scary or daunting, but what really scares me is when bad old ideas such as discrimination, racism. You know, in Europe we had Holocaust, which was a tragedy, and there are still people who sustain and support those ideas. I think that's very worrying, actually. And so that's why when they say, "Oh, we shouldn't be talking about the Holocaust and on, it's over," it's not over. It's not over, unfortunately. We have to keep on talking about that. And, you know, violence and discrimination and hatred and all of that.
Well put. So McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound, the poet, that artists are antennas of the race. The artists and the writers are broadcasting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, like how inventions really affect us, the deeper. And so McLuhan would say, yes, we can look to the artist and the writers to reveal the hidden psychic effects, the unintended consequences, but we still ignore these hidden effects. Why do humans ignore the hidden effects even when we can look to the writers and artists to reveal them to us?
Well, because I don't know, because sometimes we are, you know, silly. Not only does not only do artists show us the way, but we have history, and which should not be repeated when it comes down to wars and social injustice and racism and discrimination. And unfortunately, at the moment in the world, there are many wars going on. There are many people killing other people for whatever reason. So apparently, we do not learn, or I don't know, our politicians do not learn or don't care to learn, because sometimes they are more interested in power and power and monopoly and of power than the human being of humanity. And this is dreadful. And also when if you think about the environment and pollution, I mean, we needed a teenager to tell us, what are you doing, to wake us up, to wake politicians and men of science up. And so I don't know, I think that money and power can be very misleading.
Well put. So Sabrina, can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of your earliest memories?
I think that one of my earliest memories is when I was, I don't know, probably was 3. I was sitting on the floor in my living room. I think there was my brother and me, who was 1 year younger. And I remember my father standing in trousers and white shirt. He had used to wear a beard, and he was sort of how to say, playing with, we're trying to make this new television set work, and he was kind of complaining about us kids, making noise. I don't remember making noise, but apparently we were making noise. That's my I think my earliest memory.
Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Well, it depends, because of course, you know what I've noticed, that although of course I have many good memories and as well as many bad memories, but sometimes I don't know, we try to focus on what we did wrong, which we shouldn't. We should focus on what we did right. So sometimes it's what we make of memories. Sometimes we make them a course because we don't remember the right memories. We should try to focus more on what we did right and less on what we did wrong.
I agree. That's beautiful. And can you tell me someone in your immediate family who had a big impact on you, a role model, and what specifically you got from them? And then outside your immediate family. So just briefly, inside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you was like a role model. And what'd you get from them? And then outside your immediate family.
Inside my family, I can't say I had a role model, because I could see some faults that I really didn't like in the adults, surrounding me as a child. But at the same time, I saw beautiful things. So what probably it is that I inherited something from my immediate family, particularly from my father's side, because they were all teachers and they were all interested in books and reading and getting informed. My father used also to write for newspapers, as well as teaching. So they were all my grandmother was a teacher, my grandfather as well, my father, my uncle. So that's something that maybe runs a little bit in the family. It's something that I inherited. This this interest for communicating and teaching. So even though maybe from an emotional side they were not so supportive, maybe because of the way they were brought up, or I don't know, as individuals, both my mother and father, they were very positive figures, because they were full of energy, with a good work ethics, and they always let me do what I was very independent, I was very free. They let me make my choices. Maybe they shouldn't have, maybe they should have tried to direct me a little more, because I had to make many choices on my own. But for example, when I asked to go and attend university in Venice, they said, okay, go, no problem. So I had this beautiful opportunity of attending university in Venice, which is one of the most amazing things that I could have done. So yeah, I suppose they were all strong personalities with a good, strong life energy and good people. So
That's good.
outside
Now,
my family, I don't know. I can't think of a. I suppose that all the people that I met, teachers, and maybe I can think about teachers. If particularly at university, if I saw that what they did it with a passion and with a real interest, that was very appealing to me. To attend lessons in Ca' Foscari, I was, the University of Foreign, because I studied foreign language and literature in Venice, and it is in a very, ancient palace on the Grand Canal, and it was beautiful. And there was this scholar teaching us about Goldoni and Italian literature with such a passion. That was very inspirational, I think.
that's good. That's good. You got passion from your teachers. I love that, because it's something that excites me about the Dante group is how passionate people are about sharing their knowledge. It's really fun. And so, did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Well, yeah, I was raised in the Catholic religion, as it is, most common in Italy. So I was baptized, I got confirmation. Well, I even got married in church, but I'm not like, I can't deny this is an important part of my upbringing. This is how I was brought up, but I'm not a believer.
Do you pray?
And I'm a bit of a contradiction there, because sometimes I do, actually. It comes naturally to me. But I'm a bit of an agnostic, a superstitious agnostic. That is to say, I don't know if I have the tools to be aware of some entity out there. I don't know. I think that as a human being, I'm not able to know. At the same time, you never know. So it might as well be. So I like the idea of guardian angels, for example. I like the idea of our soul surviving after death. I like that. What I don't like is the dogma. I don't like the church as an institution. I don't like to be told what to do and what not to do, particularly considering all the problems they have had and still have, and all the inconsistencies. And also, I think there is a little bit, it's a bit childish the way they preach, and the iconography, and this blonde Jesus Christ with blue eyes, in our beautiful churches. There is some, I don't know, some naivety there. But
Yeah.
I love, I love
Well,
entering church. I like the rite of
yeah.
the Catholic mass. The rites are very beautiful, the incense and the smell of it. And our churches are amazing. We have They are beautiful, they are beautiful places for spirituality, and also very often of beautiful works of art. They're amazing places, our church. So, our churches. So,
Yeah.
but it's also a good, a lots of good things about that as well.
That was well put. It's similar to how I feel too. If God exists, Sabrina, what would you want God to tell you after you die?
that probably that well, I've done my best, and of course I could have done better, but I've done my best, and that I will be able to be a guardian angel for my daughters and grandchildren if I have any. I would like to be their guardian angel.
Very good. I love that whole. I had a nun who taught me about guardian angels, and I tend to still believe in it too. So it sounds a little kooky new age, but it's like, what the heck? Why not?
Exactly. Yeah, that comes naturally to me. You see, I'm not afraid of thinking that that is possible. I even
Yeah.
feel it is. So
No, I love it.
yeah.
And do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
That's also interesting. Well, for Catholics, the Inferno exists, the hell exists, the devil exists. I don't know so much the Inferno, but they believe in the devil. There used to be a priest who was a professional exorcist, Padre Amos, and he was a fascinating creature, and he was, the pro of the exorcist at the Vatican. So they really believe in the devil. I don't know if the devil exists as an entity. What I think evil does unfortunately exist, as you can see. There are so many evil actions, evil deeds going on a big scale, as well as on, in private lives and on a small scale. The problem, as I was saying before, is that appearances can be deceiving. So sometimes you have how would you say, the wolf uh, in sheep's clothes,
Yeah.
So that's why it's important for young people to acquire the tools to try to see beyond someone's words, someone's action, to detect what's beyond. Also, actually, I'm very interested in crime watching. And particularly, I'm interested in those stories where really bad actions in the family took place and nobody suspected of anything. In fact, it was the perfect family. I'm sorry to say that many of these crime stories take place in America, but maybe because you are a very big country, and or you have the best crime programs. That is certainly the reason. And this dichotomy between what people thought, oh, he was a perfect father, he was the perfect family, and what these people actually did is really, it's when reality is much more unbelievable than fiction. I'm fascinated by how evil can be difficult to detect. Of course, you say evil, we say evil, but very often these are very disturbed personalities. And again, there is something very eerie about this, because sometimes they say, oh, these people went through traumas in life, that's why they became sociopaths. But first, it's very difficult sometimes to detect a sociopath. Secondly, other people with worse traumas grew up as wonderful people. So it's, human nature is really mysterious. It's a mystery. That's what I follow up on these stories, because I try to understand how our psyche can work. and the mystery.
Yeah, that was good. I love that word mystery. We'll get back to that, but it's interesting because the next question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. And two of them are Italians. Francis Ford Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer. And
Even closer, yeah.
Fellini says, I need an enemy. And JFK says, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. But the one I would like you to start to react to first, and then tell us, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? How do you advise them? But could you react to this one? Alan Watts, who's an English man who brought Eastern philosophy to America. He says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. So how do you feel about that thought? And then how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy?
Well, enemy can be, you can have enemies at work, people who maybe try to make things difficult for you. You can have even an enemy among friends, because sometimes, particularly among women, there can be some jealousy. It's difficult to say how to handle. Oscar Wilde used to say, I choose my friends with care, carefully, but I need to choose my enemies even more carefully. So it's important to yeah, it's one of Wilde's paradoxes, but because of course your friends are your friends, and they will always be good to you. So it's important to be able to focus on people who do not desire the best for you. How to react? I don't know. I think that sometimes it's also you're also entitled to feel anger. Other times it's better not to acknowledge, if you can, what's been done to you. Of course, it depends on what we are talking about. Sometimes anger can be sacred, okay? And you are entitled to be angry when someone is unfair to you or really nasty. Other times, it's better to like overlook and pretend you. Dante used to say, "Non ti curar di loro, ma guarda e passa." We say it every day in our lives in Italian. It's something you say all the time. Don't mind those people. Just move on. But it depends, because even Jesus Christ sometimes got really angry and upset, according to the scriptures. He wasn't always, peace and love and give the other cheek. So it depends on the situation. Sometimes it's also important to vent your true emotions. Maybe trying not to lose your self-control too much, but state your point. I don't know. It's difficult. It depends. It depends on the situation. Yeah. Sometimes pretending you didn't notice it's also the best course of action. Other times you need to stand up for your rights. It's every time you need to judge what's the best course of action.
Very good. So James Joyce was the first projectionist for a movie theater in Dublin over 100 years ago. He basically checked out and said, why go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when you can go outside and see a real tree? And then William Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
It's both things are important, but you can learn a lot from a theatrical piece as well, about life you live. If you think about, I don't know, we were reading, I think at Sweeney's, they are reading at the moment De Profundis by Oscar Wilde, and there is this beautiful comedy, The Importance of Being Earnest, and that was about Victorian hypocrisy, but it's full of paradox and wordplay and aphorisms. Is just brilliant, and it makes you think, because literature and as well play and plays, not only novels, and poetry can actually, and cinema, love cinema, they are very important because of course they are work of art, and so they are the result of the best in man, of the ability to create something that is abstract. And at the same time, it's important because it's relevant to what we are, to what we could be. It's otherwise we would just have our life as it is. Whereas to talk about, even now, we are doing something similar. We, of course, we live our lives, but we are reflecting now on how we live it, and it gives an added value. If we did it in an artistic environment, the value would be even greater.
You know, I like that, and I'm of your belief that art in writing and film and literature is so important parts of our lives, and it's great to share them and talk about them. But Auden, the poet, said the mystery of art is that we really don't know if it activates us or pacifies us. So it goes into that like realm of escapism. You know, sometimes we just want to watch a movie that's like no brainer so that we can relax. And then that's sort of more escapism, but we can read, you know, we read Finnegan's Wake every other week, and to me it's both activating and pacifying me. It makes me feel both ways. And Bertolt Brecht said he does not want his plays to put people in a trance. He wants them to activate them. But sometimes things that put you in a trance can flip and activate you. So can you discuss that paradox a little?
I think that this is very this is what is happening with young people, I think, and this is something that maybe we should try and teach them, that a beautiful movie can be both entertaining and educational, and it doesn't have to have the pace of a video game, or it doesn't have to be a pacifier. It doesn't have, because if it is, you will not, it means that something is lacking, that you know there is not much to learn from it. And if you want to learn, learning requires effort. It is true. I mean, we don't have to deny young people this. We all have this first reaction on how, you know, it can be, it's not effortless. There is, our brain makes an effort, but is an effort that is worth the while. And my students, sometimes I teach at secondary school, but even my daughters, they complain, oh, that movie is too slow. They don't even care what it's about. It's just too slow. So I think they need to be also, taste must be educated. The taste of young generations but must be educated, because with us, apparently we've done a good job with ourselves, because you are able to read Finnegan's Wake and enjoy it. I used to read it on Tuesdays. I left because I'm busy during the week, but also I found Finnegan's Wake very, very challenging and daunting. But there are other pieces of art that are more affordable, and still young generations say, oh, it's boring, oh, it's because they have been numbed by, again, social media and the mobile phone and the video games. So really, adults should be aware that young generation need to be educated at thinking that culture needs an effort, and it needs a slow pace.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well put. And it's high aspiration. We're there with you. So a screenwriting teacher, Sabrina, told me that great art, great literature, great film is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says, no, great art is when you clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process? I mean, as a writer, as a teacher, when you're creating, how much is intention playing a part?
I write articles for an online magazine, and it's always about something I'm passionate about, or something I read that ignited a kind of spark in my brain. And so it's and this is as far as writing is concerned. I don't know, when it comes down to literature, I don't know if intention is the right word, but yeah, my aim is always to be able to read as much as I can. Only I don't have time to, but for example, I've been longing for finishing the Recherche, by Proust, which is one of the masterpieces. Sooner or later, I'll be able to do it. With Sweeney's, actually, I've just written an article about Sweeney's group reading and how inspirational they are. And because with them, I've been able to finish Ulysses. I've been able to read it both in Italian and English, completely. And that was it. Yeah, in that case, I had an aim, I had an intention. I wanted to finish it because it's so important and challenging. But otherwise, I follow taste and inspiration.
Good. Marcel Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. When you're writing your article, how much are you thinking of your reader? What role does the reader have in your mind while you're writing?
I try to, what I write must be appealing to me, first of all. Then I always choose topics that I think can be appealing for the audience as well. For example, in this case, in this article, I was talking also about our Dante's readings, because I think it could be interesting for people to realize how what happens online can be so important and fulfilling, and how the pandemic, which has disrupted so much, at the same time has had some pros, which is to make, for example, I met you, I met other people through Zoom readings. Sweeney's group in Dublin with Massimiliano Bianchi and PJ and Jack Walsh and all the rest of them. They have moved their readings on Zoom, and I've been able to join because of this medium. And so I, for example, in this case, I wrote this article because I wanted to tell people, look, we've done something nice. Although at the beginning we were a little bit scared, particularly us Italians. Oh my God, Dante, it's very difficult and sacred, you know. So we made some resistance, but now, as you very nicely are saying, we are doing something nice. A bunch of people from Italy, Ireland, America, they come together every Wednesday and they read the Divina Commedia, the Inferno, first, you know, two cantos at a time, first in Italian, then in English, and comment on it. And it's just beautiful, you know. Sharing this is just beautiful experience. So I wanted to let people know. Probably my intention is to let people know about things that I deem important as far as cultural activities are concerned.
Yeah, I agree. I've hosted meetings for over 30 years with people live in a room. And my meetings on Zoom since for the last year are better than all those 30 years. And I'm sorry to say, I love live people. And, you know, I live in Venice, California, and I can go down to the beach and see people live every day on my bicycle. Even during the pandemic, you stay 6 feet away. But people's attention is more prominent in a Zoom session. And it's in it again is how we've learned and met Duncan in Texas, and you in Italy, and Jack and you know,
Amazing, yeah.
Bill in Ohio. So it is really an amazing flip, and it's a beautiful thing how we can share that. So Sabrina, this is really fun. I appreciate your time. What do you think the motive of the cave artist was?
Probably, yes. You see, once he had done what he needed to do, food-wise and shelter-wise, because food, shelter, fire, water, they were the basic needs then as they are now. Then what's left? And now what shall I do? What shall I do? Shall I attain? Shall I maybe try to express myself? This is very interesting, very good question. You see, it's something innate in us. We are not happy in just living our lives. We need to look at what we do from outside as well. What you know, differentiates us from the beautiful animals that are in this world, that we have this extra interest in looking at what we do from outside, and as centuries went on, thinking about our actions, analyzing, depicting it either in picture or fiction, cinema, you know.
Thank you. What do you think about storytelling? Is storytelling more innate in humans, or did humans invent storytelling?
I'm sure it is innate, because again, it's like yeah, we're not happy with just living our lives and live it as it is. We need to tell others, we need to share, and probably we also need to embellish it, and to and as time went on, people needed to also give symbolic meanings to what they saw, to nature, to the natural phenomena around them. Is like Greek mythology also, and other other classical myths came around, when ancient people looking at the sun or at the moon or some natural phenomenon wanted to see more, and gave names, and invented stories, and Zeus and all his different transformations, and all the other gods. And it was really a way of interpreting reality, and telling about reality, and sharing also. So I think it is innate.
Is perception reality?
What we perceive, yeah, absolutely. I really believe in, for example, in your first impression, we should always trust our gut's feeling about things, and everything is perception. A beautiful sunset, or and it's our reality, is what we perceive in others, and in our own experience. Is what, of course, there are different sensitivities. Some people are more sensitive to some things, other people to other things, but what they perceive and how they perceive it makes their reality.
Thank you. What's the function of poetry?
I'm not a keen reader of poetry, although there are beautiful poems around that they've always been. It's when they're really great work of art, again, they are a way of interpreting reality and human experience at a higher level. And when it's really good poetry, there is a musicality to it that really makes it precious. Also, well, reading Dante, I don't know if you probably miss out on sometimes on this, because it is in English translations, often it's not rhymed, but in the original version, there is this terza rima, third rhyme, is an interlocking rhyming scheme that makes everything, very musical and very flowing. And if you add to it, Dante's word and the metaphors and the allegory, well, beautiful poetry is. I think it must give you an emotion through rhyme. I like rhyming poetry, but it doesn't necessarily be rhyming, I suppose.
Well, that was good, because the symbolists were such important poetry movement that came out of Edgar Allan Poe a lot, and that was their main thing, is that it's the effect that you're trying to create, even more so the words. So the beauty of me hearing you all read Dante in Italian, I don't know what those words are, even though when I was a kid I studied Latin, got straight A's, but I don't remember any of it. It has you nailed it with the word. It has a musicality that is. T.S. Eliot said a lot of important things, and he said poetry can communicate before it's understood.
I agree. Yeah.
Yes, really. So I'm getting something from you, but it's great that then we read the English, but it's almost like it's more fun just to hear the Italian. So T.S. Eliot also said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. So we all have this voice inside our head. My question to you, Sabrina, is what language is your inner dialogue in?
Well, Italian, because it's my mother tongue, but sometimes, well, my inner language would be Italian, But sometimes if I talk to myself, I use Spanish, I use English, because sometimes I use the dialects of this region, because sometimes they're more immediate. There are some expressions that, work better, but my inner language would be Italian. Yeah.
Yeah, but the question's really deeper. It's what form is your inner consciousness in? Is it in spoken word or is it in some other form? The inside of you, what form is that in?
Well, I sometimes I don't understand the question very. I don't seem to understand the question. Do you mean if I actually form thoughts in my brain as constructing, as I would do if I were constructing a sentence?
Yeah, like an inner, well, no, it's more like your inner consciousness. What form is your inner consciousness in?
Well, I suppose that one of the great mysteries, how is thought formed? Sometimes there are images, other times maybe words,
Yeah,
other times, for well-formed sentences. Um, and in fact, many artists have tried in the past to reproduce that. Thinking you were mentioning the modernists, and actually they tried to do that, but it's almost impossible. I don't know. Sometimes I talk to myself aloud, that I know. But
yeah, that's
yeah.
good. No, you answered it well. And so I know it's both and it depends, but what's more important, conviction or compromise?
Well, we live in a society with other people, and compromise can be sometimes a wise choice, unless it goes too much against what you believe. Because otherwise, if you do that, you are a coward. And I'm thinking about the workplace, for example, or even in relationships, friendship, or otherwise. Some compromise, it's okay, as long as you don't have to set aside your self-worth, or what you believe in.
Yeah.
In that case, it's right to, you know, to stand up and express your convictions. Sometimes it's useless because it depends who you have in front of you. Sometimes, the exchange can be very fruitful because on the other side there is the willingness to, to come to a discussion and to a debate. Other times, if there is not this interest, you might as well keep the conviction for yourself, and unless, as I say, unless it damages you. In that case, you have to stand up.
Well put. So you've accomplished a lot in your life. Rate these three elements: ambition, skill, and luck. What played the most part, second and third, in what you've accomplished in your life?
Uh, Luck, no, maybe luck and skills, yeah, probably together. And then ambition comes last, because actually I didn't probably make the right choices when I should have. I think I should have, sometimes I regret not staying at university and proceeding on a different career. But I was lucky enough to become at least high school teacher. So that was lucky, but it was also thanks to my skills, because I studied in order to become a teacher. But luck is very important in life, because luck or destiny or whatever you want to call it, because I had the opportunity, and when I thought it was too late for me to change jobs, and instead there was this, like, how do you call it, this slot, this opening, and I could take advantage of it, also because of my skills, also because of the studies I have. Yeah,
Sabrina,
carried out.
you well put. You've been a teacher for many years. Tell me one thing that's changed in your years of being a teacher, and one thing that stayed the same.
In myself, or in my students?
Yeah, well, you can do both. Yeah. For yourself, what has changed for you? What have you learned? What's your takeaway?
Actually, I've always only been teaching for 10 years, which is not a long time as far as teaching goes. And when I became a teacher, I expected, I suppose I expected a school like the ones I used to attend. So maybe stricter, and also maybe less interested in the emotional needs of the students, which was not good. Now, on the contrary, now, though, I think that we tend to be a little bit more too supportive of students, and so I think it's always in medio stat virtus, they say it in Latin, and the virtue stands in the middle, and I think we should go back to try to make young people responsible for their actions. But particularly now, it's a bit difficult, because they are living a very difficult situation with remote learning and the pandemic. So maybe this is not the right moment, for asking them to, like, man up and be a little bit more responsible. Even though I think that this also could be a good opportunity for them to realize that if we didn't have remote learning, for example, at the moment, we are in a red zone in my area, and we are on 100% remote teaching. And it's very important to have their cooperation. And that's something that they should understand, and they should also understand that we shouldn't take advantage of the situation, because they study. Studying is a gift they do themselves, but it's a bit difficult to make them realize this sometimes. What I would have never expected it is to teach from remote. This is something that I would have never expected, because this was total started last spring, and all of a sudden we were told, okay, now take a computer. I didn't even know what, for example, Zoom was. Now take a computer and start teaching online, and that was a little bit unsettling. But we got used to it pretty quickly, and also, yeah, there are some communication problems, but at the same time, I think there are many advantages in having these tools at the moment. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having school at all.
That was well put. And so Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Well, the morning is always a moment of, a very energetic moment. I always have ideas in the morning. In the afternoon, I tend to to lose some strength. Um, well, there are some things that I'm doing at the moment that I wouldn't have deemed possible. I'm doing nice, like what's happening with our Dante's reading is something I'm really enjoying, and I have to thank Bill Kennedy from Ohio from that, because he was the one who really pushed, and so, and also this writing articles is something that I've been doing for a while, not very long time, and I didn't expect to become a writer in that sense either. So, well, life is unpredictable, and you just have to be open to new opportunities and be hopeful and try to do your best according
Yeah.
to, what your talents.
But Sabrina, you seem to be an optimist and think the positive. Did you get this on your own, or how your parents raised you?
Uh, did you mention my parents?
Yeah, did you get your
Yeah,
positive attitude from your parents or on
yeah, I
your
think
own?
so.
Yeah.
No, I think this is something that I inherit. And I deem myself very lucky, because my nature is this. What you see, I'm full of energy. Okay, and this is something that either you have or you don't. Other people have a lower energy. They tend to be melancholic and easily depressed. I'm really sorry for those people, because it's something that it's not easy to fight if you are like that. On the contrary, it comes naturally to me to be all happy all the time. Not always happy, but energetic. My
Yeah.
mother is, she's more than 80, and she's always energetic and doing things and laughing and making jokes. And yeah, it's something that I inherited. I think it's something that you can actually inherit. Yeah.
So Moshe Feldenkrais is a gentleman who works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're taught to overcome a weakness. Can you tell me a weakness you've turned into a strength?
As I said, as a child, I wasn't supported emotionally. I don't think I was, and I went through a series of traumas as well. Mm, but with my daughters, for some reason, it came naturally to me not to repeat what I had experienced. So I'm really affectionate parent. I made my mistakes, but I try to give a lot of emotional support to them. Uh, I don't find it difficult. So I really didn't act upon it. I didn't have to say, oh my God, I have to force myself to be in that way. But it came out like this. And I think it was good and lucky, that it came naturally to me to do differently from what I
Yeah,
experienced.
that was good. So what's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
They say that women have more connections between the two hemispheres.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, your brain is larger, but we have more uh, connections, between neurons, and because the rational part and the more emotional part, and that's why sometimes we, I don't know, we have how would you say, and a look. It's easier for us to have the helicopter view of situations, and also to see behind some, some facts. Whereas I think that men tend to be simpler sometimes. They look at things at face value. They say, oh, but what are you going on about? He said that and he meant that. And you have to maybe sometimes explain, no, he said that, but I think that he really meant something else because of the body language. I think that this comes from where we stayed in the cave, whereas men went hunting, and we had to be careful in dealing with relationships and body language, and so we are better at detect what's behind words, I think.
Well put, because there's a cliche that goes, women know, men suppose. And I thought your use of the metaphor for the helicopter, women see the bigger picture better. Yeah. Well done.
Yes, and they also see behind the scene. Sometimes it's not that you don't see. Sometimes you can't be bothered. It's, come on, it's, I don't care. It's too complicated. Whereas when we like to delve, no, because he actually, we are a little bit more fussy sometimes.
Yeah. And so if you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I would tell her to not to worry, that everything will be okay. Only I would suggest choosing a different high school, because I should have studied. I should have studied. I should have done classical studies, I think, which I didn't, and I missed that. In fact, I want to start. I just did a little of Latin, whereas Greek and Latin, when you study literature, they always come back to daunt you with your, ignorance. So I would suggest attending classical studies, and not to worry too much, that everything would be fine.
Yeah, good. So there's an old saying that goes, you create what you resist, or what you resist persist. In fact, a comedian morphed it into, you are what you hate. James Joyce said it well. He said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. Joyce was so obsessed with religion, he says, I don't believe it. And then even the filmmaker Louis Buñuel said, thank God I'm an atheist. So, there's an irony in this line, but I'm not saying I believe it or not. I'm just asking you, what do you think of this idea? You create what you resist, or not you, Sabrina, but one creates what one resists.
Yes. Well, I can think of what you said earlier on, that sometimes we give power to our enemy, and our enemy can be also misleading thoughts about what we can do or what we can't do. So sometimes we are the worst enemies of ourselves. I don't know. Oscar Wilde used to say, "I resist anything except temptation." So, and I think it's brilliant, because, in fact, you need also to go with the flow and allow life to come up with opportunities, because life is really, what's beautiful about life is that it's totally unpredictable. And so try to open up and not to resist, particularly temptation. Let's not resist temptations. It's a paradox, but it's the opposite of maybe James Joyce, who was actually trying to resist every time this influence of Catholic religions, whereas probably he should have let it go, and but otherwise we wouldn't be reading about his beautiful pages. For example, in the portrait of the artist as a young man, when he tells us about the role of religion in his life and all the rest of it. So it's good that he has had this, like obsession with religion, I suppose. Sometimes it's fruitful, you see. Sometimes resisting has an outcome which can be interesting.
Yeah, it's something I learned from a great Italian rock star. Well, he's American, but his roots are in Italy. Is Frank Zappa, is to embrace contradiction. Like, you can embrace it. You don't have to fight it. You can actually
Exactly.
And incorporate it into and it goes along with this, because Thornton Wilder, who wrote Our Town, and in 1928 he said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. So
think about, for example, sorry.
Go ahead. No,
tell me. Now, when you said hide, and when you said something about
desire to tell it,
showing reality, I was thinking about, thinking contradiction. I was thinking about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And this, and also the portrait of Dorian Gray, which, by the way, we read at Sweeney's, and they both deal with the double. And the problem there is that these characters don't embrace contradiction, and their tragic end takes place because of this, because you can't divide yourself into evil and good and try to experience and live the two, have different experience. You have to embrace all contradiction and try to find a balance. Otherwise, it can become very, very problematic.
Yeah, it's well put. So just a couple more, and then we'll bring Clinton in. This has really been fun. If a publisher was to release your autobiography, just off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Cosetta.
What's that mean?
Cosetta, well, means a small thing, but is also the name of a character, a child, in, I think, how would you say, Les Miserables, by Victor Hugo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. And they want to...
Cosa?
Go ahead.
No, sorry, because cosa means thing, and cosetta means little thing, but it is in fact a proper name for a girl. It's yeah.
And the publisher wants to scent the glue in the binding of your autobiography. What smell would it be?
Rose.
Oh, nice. And
I like that. I like.
Yeah. And if a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed, and what would it be made of?
Statue? I don't know. Oh my God. Well, we have beautiful statues in Italy, in marble, and some of them they really look like flesh. So I would like to be one of those beautiful, like Bernini statues, or Michelangelo used to, and placed. Well, I would like to have a beautiful villa with a beautiful garden overlooking the sea, and I wouldn't mind placing it there.
Nice. Well, that's a great answer. We'll bring Clinton on. He'll ask a question or two, and then I'll finish this off. Sabrina, what a pleasure and joy. This has been fun. And I know the beauty with Clinton is he actually listens to these. So, Clinton, what do you
Right.
Yeah, that was excellent. And my mind is still going over that idea of Jekyll and Hyde and the portrait of Dorian Gray as men who failed to embrace their contradictions. Because actually, since Jerry's been talking with members of your Dante group, I've been thinking you teach English in
English language and literature. Yeah.
That's good. Like, do you teach classes with students who are capable enough to really get into the literature? Is it like advanced English?
They must. They must. I teach in high school. They go from 15 to 14, 15 years to when they finish, they are 19. And they are required to have a good knowledge of English. The problem in Italy is everything is dubbed, and this a real problem. So even though students are taught English from an early age, that when they arrive at high school or secondary school, as you want to call it, very often they can't say much, and so you have to educate them and say, you know, it's important for you to watch things in the original language and be exposed to the language, because from the third year, you know, high school lasts 5 years, and starting from the third year, we do actually literature in English. And this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I've been doing it with the last year students from the 5th year, and we did it in English. Of course, when it comes down to the text, we just do a small portion of the text because it's 19th century English and it can be a little bit convoluted. So I focus more on the ideas of the double. And Mr. Hyde, in fact, if you think about it, the Mr. Hyde is not the doctor, you know, the good person, the good scientist is Dr. Jekyll. Mm-hmm. Jekyll. Does it remind you of anything? Jekyll is also an animal, right?
A jackal. Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, I haven't found much about this in, you know, in what I read about. I think there must be something in the name there, as it is in Mr. Hyde. So, because Dr. Jekyll is trying to hide something, and he wants to hide something through this potion of his, but as we know, that's not how it works. So, because he gets addicted to it, or anyway, there is something wrong with the potion eventually, and it dies, whereas his idea was to keep being a respectable Victorian doctor, and in the meantime his other self could go to the East End in, you know, and smoke opium and, you know,
yeah, have a little fun.
Yeah,
and have fun, it all,
you know.
Yeah,
exactly. That's not how it works. You have to to embrace. I think that's the message of it.
No, that's very interesting. Embracing contradiction in that way. I mean, if you think about maybe pieces of art like Dante, Virgil, right? Writing art like that has to come from trying to bring together contradictions, especially with, you know, religion and society in his day.
Yeah, we are reading Dante, and Dante is all about, you know, I was going through a very difficult path in my life. I didn't know where to go, and then I had this inspiration. I went on this journey, and it's all about, yeah, trying to embrace our contradictions, because we are all human beings. We are not Perfect. But something that I think is very can be very tricky is hypocrisy, or when society wants us to be something regardless of what we really are. In the Victorian age, this was very clear. They only gave importance to respectability, but something happens in modern society, in some modern society as well. You have to be law abiding, religious abiding, you have to have the perfect family, the perfect situation, not to get divorced, not to smoke, not to do this, not to do that. And some people get so obsessed with wanting to show what they are not, but want to appear to be, that, you know, behind the scenes, they lose their minds, you know. So society is also a very important role in trying to make individuals true to themselves, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a point where humans have to be able to admit their embracing contradictions, admit their mistakes, and not be ashamed that it is human to fail. And I think that's the main thing with Finnegan's Wake, is that you fall down, then you get back up, and you fall down and get back
Exactly,
up.
yeah.
Redemption. And back to Frank Zappa, he says, I'm a failure, but I'm not a miserable failure. You know, you don't
I
have
used to love Frank Zappa. Yeah, he was
you don't
wonderful.
you don't have to be miserable if you fail, because it's human. But like you said, societal norms sort of make it, oh, you failed, you know, you're
But for
scolded.
some people, it's not so easy, because judgment, you know, the judgment of society can be really a burden. You know, think about young people, maybe that think they don't fit in, and or yeah, and
So
a
we'll
judgmental attitude can be very.
yeah, that's no, judgmental is an amazing word, just the hypocrisy word, societal norms. So we'll close out with a couple more. Sabrina, this has been great. Thank you. Clinton, what's the healthiest cultural shift you see developing today? Not so much like health in the body, but just in general, cultural shifts that have developed recently. What's the one that stands out for you?
Well, the sharing of ideas, it's very important. I think that generally speaking, places of learning are very important to me. The fact that universities exist, and book groups exist, people share abstract thinking, you know. We need to think also in an abstract way, as we're saying. Why do we need art, we need poetry, we need cinema, we need to see to look at ourselves from outside, and maybe try to share ideas, and if we have an artistic skill, you know, express our emotions and ideas also through, you know, the medium that we have chosen. I think that culture and the ability of sharing, at the moment, I actually think that information technology tools are being very, very important, because we feel less lonely, and it can be very uplifting to be able to talk to you in California, and to be able to maybe get updated about the things we are reading about, and then it's food for thought.
Yeah.
And it's very, very important.
Yeah, I like your metaphor, food for thought. You know, we think of Italy as the country of eating good, delicious food, nurturing ourselves. And I've never had that answer. That is a great answer. You know, what's the healthiest cultural shift? Sharing abstract thinking. That is amazing. That's a really good, you really were concise. So, Sabrina, thank you. The last question is, and I hope we continue to be friends and talk forever.
Absolutely.
What gives you the most optimism?
The fact that I've seen that things personally have worked out for me, and also and on a more general level, I don't know, personalities like, for example, the young Swedish girl, Greta Thunberg. For me, young people like her are a big source of optimism. It means that there is still hope, for humanity to improve and be aware of and self-aware of what we are doing to the planet and how we can improve our life. Sometimes it's difficult to be optimist because there are still so bad things going on, but there are also many good people around that are, witnesses with good practices, and each of us can do something. And I'm optimist that it's, a lot of us hoping that things will improve.
Yeah, that's a good note to end on. Hope and improvement. And that is an answer I often get is, what gives you the most optimism? Youth. So let's stay young. Thank you so much.
Youth is very important. Yeah.
Thank you, Clinton. This has really been fun. I'll see you Wednesday at Dante.